A frustrated father thought he was getting even with his ex when he decided to get creative with his final child support payment. Paying to send a message, he dumped 80,000 pennies on her lawn, but he'd learned the hard way that he had made a big mistake. Avery Sanford, a Richmond, Virginia teen, hadn't seen her dad in years when he decided to drop off his final child support payment to her mother. Rather than handing over a check, however, he thought it was a good idea to dump 80,000 pennies in front of the house his ex-wife shared with their daughter. Although he thought he was getting even and sending a message, he'd be the one getting taught a tough lesson. "I just turned 18, Avery recalled, describing the day her dad made his shocking delivery. "When I was in the middle of class, my dad came by. He had rented a trailer," she added. So what happened next was captured on surveillance camera video as Avery's father is seen in the footage pulling away after dumping the payment in front of the house. But things didn't end there. As Avery's dad pulled up in front of the house and turned the trailer on so it dumped out all the pennies on the grass, the teen said her mom came out and was like, "What are you dumping in my yard?" According to the Deep Run High School senior, her mother didn't even recognize the man dumping the pennies in front of her home until he shouted, "It's your final child support payment." While many might have let anger take over, the Virginia teen decided to have a much different reaction, showing her estranged father the meaning of good sense and maturity, the New York Post reported. Rather than getting mad at her penny-hoarding dad, Avery Sanford had a much different reaction. She would respond with kindness, turning a bad situation into a positive one. Avery Sanford and her mother decided to gather the copper and set it aside for charity, donating the final child support payment from the estranged father to a domestic abuse center, according to News 6 Richmond. After every penny was picked up, the $800 would be donated to Safe Harbor, a domestic abuse center, the mother and daughter decided. As for the frustrated father, he quickly learned that he had made a big mistake. "If it's not just my mom he's trying to embarrass, it's also me and my sister, and it's upsetting that he didn't consider that before he did that," Avery explained. "Turning around and donating that money to moms and children in need, I feel like that really turns this situation into a positive. You can learn from it." It seems Avery's father learned the biggest lesson of all, albeit the hard way. Speaking with News 6, he said he reacted out of 18 years of pent-up frustration, and his emotions got the best of him. He added that the last thing he wanted to do was to put a further wedge between him and his daughter, but unfortunately for him, that's exactly what he did. And now, hopefully others can learn from this too before making the same mistake. Avery already hadn't spoken to her father in years, and the incident only proved that she made the right decision to stay clear since she has no interest in having a relationship with anyone who would disrespect her mother. "It's really hurtful and damaging to your kids when you do things like that," Avery explained, reminding parents that their actions impact their kids. "It doesn't matter if they're young or an adult, the actions of your parents will always have some effect on you." Avery's story quickly gained traction, sparking conversations across social media about parenting, responsibility, and emotional maturity. Many people applauded her decision to turn a spiteful act into something positive, while others criticized her father's actions as petty and childish. A public reaction served as further evidence that his attempt at making a statement backfired spectacularly, and instead of humiliating his ex-wife, he exposed himself as someone willing to put his bitterness ahead of his children's well-being. What was meant as an act of revenge became a lesson in grace and resilience. Avery's decision to donate the money sent a powerful message about emotional intelligence and personal growth. She didn't just refuse to engage in the negativity, she transformed it into an opportunity to help others. Safe Harbor, the domestic abuse center that received the donation, later expressed their gratitude, emphasizing how impactful Avery's choice had been for families in need. Meanwhile, Avery's mother was also praised for handling the situation with dignity. She could have reacted in anger or taken legal action, but instead, she led by example, showing her daughter how to rise above toxicity. Parents across the country pointed to her response as a model for co-parenting even in difficult situations. Despite her ex-husband's bitter gesture, she remained focused on what truly mattered, the well-being of her children. As news of the incident spread, Avery received messages of support from strangers who had gone through similar experiences with separated parents. Many shared their own stories of being caught in the middle of their parents' disputes, expressing admiration for the way she handled the situation. Some even revealed that her actions inspired them to change how they dealt with their own family struggles, proving that positivity can be just as contagious as negativity. In contrast, Avery's father found himself under intense scrutiny. While he later admitted regret, some people questioned whether his apology was sincere or merely a response to the backlash. Regardless, the damage had already been done. He had publicly embarrassed himself and, more importantly, further alienated his daughter. So instead of finding closure in his final payment, He had cemented his place as an example of what not to do in a co-parenting situation. Experts in child psychology weighed in on the incident, warning against using children as pawns in personal conflicts. Dr. Rebecca Miller, a family therapist, noted that acts of spite like this can have long-term emotional effects on children, even when they're legally adults. Children of divorce often struggle with feelings of divided loyalty, she explained. When one parent tries to undermine the other, it can create emotional distress and lead to estrangement, as we see in Avery's case. As the story continued to gain attention, Avery remained firm in her decision to distance herself from her father. To her, the stunt wasn't just an immature act, it was a confirmation of the toxicity she'd been avoiding. While some encouraged her to reconcile with him, she made it clear that respect and maturity were non-negotiable. "A relationship isn't about DNA," she said in an interview. "It's about trust, and he broke that." The incident also highlighted broader discussions about child support and co-parenting dynamics. Many pointed out that while some parents view child support as a financial burden, it is, in reality, a legal and moral obligation to provide for one's children. Avery's father may have been frustrated with the payments, but they were not meant to punish him, they were meant to ensure his children had the resources they needed. While Avery's father may have hoped to get the last word, it was his daughter who ultimately had the final say. By choosing kindness over resentment, she demonstrated emotional strength beyond her years. Instead of letting his actions define her, she took control of the narrative and proved that true power lies in how we respond to adversity. As time passed, Avery focused on her future, refusing to let the incident hold her back. She continued to advocate for positivity and personal growth, encouraging others to break cycles of toxicity. Her story remains a testament to the power of grace and resilience, showing that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, it's simply moving forward with dignity. Looking back, Avery hopes that her story will serve as a lesson to other parents going through separations or custody battles. She wants them to understand that their actions, no matter how small or petty they may seem, can have lasting effects on their children. "At the end of the day, it's not about winning against your ex," she said. "It's about making sure your kids feel loved, supported, and respected. That's what really matters." Despite the initial shock and hurt, Avery found a sense of closure in how she handled the situation. Instead of letting her father's actions bring her down, she turned them into a symbol of strength and generosity. As she prepared to move forward with her life, she carried with her a valuable lesson. True maturity isn't about getting even, it's about rising above and choosing kindness, even when faced with pettiness.